Welcome to Her's Little Farm. My name is La, and welcome to my channel. On this series, my very first series for this YouTube channel, and it's the reason why I started it, is called Scary Pecking Hours, where I, along with some of my feather flock here, and I'll do a quick video of all of them around the farm for all of you to share, but anyhow, I started this YouTube channel, specifically the Scary Pecking Hours, because, well, why not? Let's talk a little bit about scary stuff, spooky stuff, crazy stuff, mixed in with some feather babies, right, you guys? Uh-oh, uh-oh. Somebody sounded the alarm. Predator, spooky stuff overhead. Hi, Larry. Anyhow, the theme, or at least the intention for this YouTube channel and also this series, is to read stuff that I find on Reddit that I find to be quite interesting and scary. So, oh, hi, Mary Jane. Mary Jane here is going to be my co-host. Say hello, Mary Jane. Now, Mary Jane, say hello to the group, to everyone. This is Mary Jane. And what we're going to be reading today, which of course is part of Reddit, and that's going to be things that I find interesting, things that I want to share, and we'll see where this goes, right? I will for sure try to upload once a week, and if I have time to create more silly content, silly girls, then I will, I will share them with all of you. So anyhow, on Reddit, there was a question that was asked. Question: what's the scariest or strangest thing you've ever seen in a national park or national forest? And I'm actually in the Pacific Northwest, so this whole thing here is actually kind of interesting to me. And this is submitted by Emergent-Sea. You have to excuse the noise. I'm outside on my very first episode, and they're trying to do construction on our country road over there, and things are just flying overhead. So the story goes, I was traveling solo around the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State and making various stops in the Olympic National Forest. I decided to stop in the Quinault for the first time and took a random road that dead-ended at a beautiful stop at the edge of the Quinault River. There was an ancient footbridge that led across the river, but it looked like it might collapse if I tried to cross it, so I decided not to. It was off season and I was not in a tourist area. I was the only one there. It was unusually hot outside that I decided I needed to get water, or to get in the water. I backed my car all the way to the edge of the dead-end road, faced it out in the direction I would need to leave, and started hiking through thick brush, down an embankment to the edge of the water. There was no path. It was pretty rugged. What do you think, Mary Jane? Yeah. It was mid-fall and I didn't have a suit since I didn't plan on swimming. So I just took my clothes off and got in the water in my bra and underwear. I don't think I could do that. Could you do that? I had a nice swim, but I could not shake the feeling that I was being watched, even though I was in the middle of nowhere. And for those of you who have gone hiking, especially in the Pacific Northwest, some of these forests are quite thick. And I've done some solo hiking before. I wouldn't recommend it if you have a little bit of fear of being in the great unknown. It can be very quiet, and I think it's the silence that scares me a little bit sometimes. Anyhow, so after about 5 minutes, the creepy feeling was enough for me to want to head back. So I started to climb out, turned my back to the other side of the river, and walked toward my clothes and shoes that I had left behind. When I turned around, there was a big, tall man standing. Really? They're fighting over there. Standing in plain view, just across from me on the other side of this river, but higher up on his embankment than I was on mine. He was wearing a poncho made of animal pelts, had long hair full of sticks and twigs, and looked like he had been living out in the wild for a very long time. We stood and stared at each other, me in frozen terror for what felt like forever, when all of a sudden he frantically took off in the direction of the footbridge leading across the river. I grabbed my car key, tried to grab my clothes and shoes, but they got tangled up on some blackberry vines. So I left everything and I went running for my life. So would I. Ran through the thick brush and blackberries, barefoot in my underwear, trying to make it to my car before he made it across the river. There was no doubt in my mind that he was trying to harm me. When I made it out of the blackberries, I could see he was crossing the bridge toward me rapidly. I got to my car and flung my door open just as he arrived. I locked the doors while he pounded on the hood of my car, just screaming and grunting non-verbally. Now, I have to say, I've never experienced that in the wild, whenever I go hiking. So I don't even know how I will respond. I mean, I'm sure I know how my husband will respond, but I don't know about me. The moment he went for a driver's side door, I hit the gas and took off as fast as I could. I looked back and he was chasing after me. He must have ran after my car for at least a mile until he faded from view. I mean, that is actually, I'm a runner. So running after a car for a mile, that's actually pretty crazy. Don't you think, Mary Jane? I was bleeding everywhere from running nearly naked through the blackberries. And let me tell you, we do have some blackberry bushes on our farm here and on the country road. And I can tell you, I do not like to even go around it because they hurt. And I usually have to suit up or at least put some protective gears on. So I can't even imagine what the heck this girl was going through running with just her bra and underwear. I was wet, unclothed, shaking, and crying. Had I hesitated for nearly just 10 seconds longer, I don't think I would have made it out alive. Even typing this story out again all these years later, I am starting to shake. I felt like I was being hunted. That is the only way I can describe it. I would never ever get back to that area. And since that moment, I always bring a hiking buddy with me when I venture out into the forest. That day is going to haunt me for life. I have had many years of therapy, and that experience is still as vivid as the day it happened. Yeah, I don't know about some of y'all, but like I said, hiking in some of these remote areas in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon and Washington, yeah, I'm not saying I ran into anything crazy, but I can imagine just being out there by yourself. Right, Mary Jane? Anyway, just wanted to read off some of the comments here since I've been making comments. Here's Bootsy, 86. Holy shit, I was scared just reading this. I can't imagine how you felt or feel. And here's another quote that I like from West Coast Beaching. This is one of the scariest stories I have read. I could only imagine your fear, as this is honestly something I would have done when younger. I too now always have hiking buddies. I'm glad you made it out safely. And yes, to Emergent-Sea, we are very glad that you made it out alive, or at least unharmed, because that was some scary shit right there. And here's Thaddeus. He's going to be my co-host for the second story I'm going to read off of Reddit. This is part of the Reddit series called Glitch in the Matrix, and it's submitted by Channy32. Title: Went to an old house in the woods. Me and four of my friends saw something different on our way home. And I just want to give you full disclosure, I've been to this place before because it is here in Oregon. And so I'll give my commentary after I finish reading it. Okay, Thaddeus, you ready? So this was a few years ago, but it still makes me feel super weird to even think about it. So my husband and I went to explore this creepy, super old house in the middle of the woods of Oregon with three of our friends. We had our fun exploring it, then started to head back, having about a 2-mile hike ahead of us. At some point on the way back, I saw this person sitting down and sobbing. He or she had on really baggy clothes and looked very dirty. They had their head in their lap, so I couldn't see a face. I had a very strange feeling, and for whatever reason, just kept walking without going over to help or something. I saw all my friends looking at it, but were totally silent. We all started walking a bit quicker though. Anyways, we kept walking in total silence and everything just felt weird for a few minutes. Finally, one of our friends say something along the lines of, "That guy was really strange." That's where things got really weird. My other friends, "Guy? I just saw a dog." Well, that eventually led us to all kinds of discussion. I saw the crying person. One of us saw a dog by itself. One of us saw a man mocking us as we walked by. And one of us just saw a sleeping person. I still don't know what to think of it. And so the the poster, or at least the person who submitted the story, had an edit, and it said that I found the old house we went to. It's called the Witch's Castle and has a disturbing backstory. You can Google Witch's Castle story, but like I said, I've been there before. There's a lot of graffiti. It's actually pretty interesting. Now, like I said, Thaddeus has never been there, but I've been there several times. I even went on a trail run there. I didn't have that experience, but that doesn't mean anything. One of my favorite comment from this is from Red Folly. Sounds like something was trying to lure you all over. Maybe showing each of you what it thought you were likely to respond to. Laugh out loud. I would have been doomed if I saw a dog. Would have gone running right over. And you know what? Red Folly is probably right, especially for me. All I needed to see was a feather baby, like my Thaddeus, and I would have probably dropped all senses and ran over there to try to catch that little cutie. Oh boy, we all got scared. Something's overhead. Why do you guys keep jumping? They keep scaring me. Oh my goodness, are you scared? It's okay. Big Mama's here. So, anyhow, we're going to read one more to wrap up this very first episode of our Scary Pecking Hours here on Her's little farm. And I'm looking overhead. Everybody is kind of running around in disguise. I don't know. They're running around. Something is up overhead scaring them. It actually made me jump a little bit. So Thaddeus here is going to be my co-host again for the final episode, or the final read. And this is on AskReddit. People who live rurally, what's the scariest experience you've had that you can't explain? This one was submitted by Archimbiblio12. I hope I'm saying that correctly. The story. My dad used to rent this house way out in the middle of nowhere, a good 45 minutes away from town. Thank goodness we don't live too far away from town. The closest neighbor was another 15 minutes away. On this property were several enclosures for raising pheasants. These belonged to the property owner, whom my dad had no responsibility towards other than to notify the owner if he saw anything wrong. In parentheses, he was high school buddies with the owner, so they were on good terms. Well, one morning he notices something very wrong. In the pheasant enclosure furthest from the house, with a good 50 or so birds, every single one of them had been slaughtered overnight. That's terrible. Who would do that? What was even weirder was that it didn't seem to be an act of predation. None of the birds seemed to have been consumed. Luckily, the owner had cameras, and they got to see what really happened. So sometime in the mid of the night, a man neither of them recognized had wandered onto the property. He made no attempt to approach the house, but instead crawled underneath the enclosure fence and proceeded to catch and stab each pheasant with a knife while wearing a headlamp. Seriously, who would do that? That is. Don't you ever let that happen to you. I hope you run, okay? He's a bit short and stumpy, not the fastest runner, but I hope you run. They caught the entire event on camera, from him entering the property till he left early in the morning. The police were called, but nothing ever came of it. My dad was so freaked out from the whole event that he made us stay with our mom for several weeks. Good thinking, Dad. So they stayed, okay, so they stayed with their mom for several weeks while he slept in bed with the gun, the dad. And I'm sure if that was my husband, he'll probably do the same thing. The property owner tightened up security with new fences and alarms. He even bought some guard dogs. They were very well trained and super friendly to anyone who'd approach them during the day. Nothing has ever happened again on that farm, and the bird killing cycle was never found. I don't know how to respond to that because I have all kinds of feather babies on the farm. I protect them like crazy. I worry about them. I make sure that the enclosure is locked up at night so that nothing will get to them, including the possums and raccoon, which we do have in the farm. And for some of them, I actually had to clip their feathers so they don't jump the fence when I'm not here, as I've had some that were taken by wolves and foxes. That's not fun either. So, anyhow, back to some of the favorite comments that I like. This is from Scrap Suit. This is the freakiest story I've read on here. And my other favorite Redditor, if you want to call it that way, it's called Blow on My Booty Hole. Your poor dad. This shit is terrifying. Yeah. You know, especially being a lover of feather babies, I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I think I will probably respond the same way. So anyhow, that concludes our very first episode of this Scary Pecking Hours series with all the shenanigans here on the farm. Everything that could happen has happened here with them sounding the alarm, spooking me out a little bit. So stay tuned for next week's episode. And again, this is La, and this is Thaddeus with her little farms. And the series called Scary Pecking Hours. Have a great one. Bye bye.